There we go. All right. So, holy what? I don't know where to begin other than just saying that this is probably the first time I have ever copied and pasted code from an AI with literally no adjustments. Um, this is the code I worked with. Nope, not this one. This was me trying to figure out some details. All right, it kind of got overwhelmed. It actually talks to you too, the reasoning aspect of it. So this is the code. And the only thing that had an issue was the get word. I just had to delete this. Maybe it thought it was naming it correctly. Maybe it forgot to put like a underscore, but you can't do that in a function. So okay, fine. Right? Okay, fine. Here's that code without. I had to actually throw it into its own class right now. But let's I mean, you can basically see the output right here. Okay. So what am I even talking about? So there's a whole thing happening with DeepSeek. It's a type of AI recently released. I'm gonna go through a couple of AI agents or AI models on my computer, and I'll show you the actual difference in basically how and why DeepSeek actually is a big deal. First and foremost, the biggest deal I think is that while OpenAI, when it used to be open, started the ball to basically create a reasoning model, something that can communicate. Um, Eventually, Sam Altman closed it off, and it's not really open anymore, which is ironic for the name maintaining its OpenAI naming for the company, but it's not open. They don't show you the documents, they don't show you the details. Maybe they'll show you the publicly facing documents, but they won't show you the full set of details. And OpenAI has had the lead in AI development. And this is coming from zero AI to wow AI. But there are some models, they're basically single files that'll show you how they basically work. Let me just do connection, or let's see, connect equals to new Olama Pi. Oh gosh, I forgot how to do it locally. Well, here's a case scenario. I do a lot of code. I do JavaScript as well, so I always get things confused. But hey, if I want to create and use a class and object in Python, what's the general format? Keep it short. So here's a case where I'm just going to ask it something. It's going to reason. It should normally. So here's where it talks, right? Think, or where it's thinking in its own. So it basically says, okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to create and use classes and objects in Python. I remember seeing some code snippets online. It literally thinks like a person in a way that, I don't know, some people call me weird for speaking out loud. That helps me think and formulate my own internal thoughts when expressed through my own ears. So speaking to myself is the case. And some people do it, and some people think it's weird. Whoever you are, doesn't matter. The fact is, it basically feels like this. Like it's talking to itself, trying to figure out its steps. First, a class supposed to define. So there's your typical class. I did. Oh, I don't need the new. Eh, that's from JavaScript and other ones. Okay. Con dot installed models. I just flip between languages so often. The positional arguments that I can get overwhelmed. Right. I converted it to a class. And then I have to print the response. So I'm essentially building a little model here, little model, some um, API tools for my local AI, which is called Face Llama. I might have to readjust its naming convention. But it can essentially read CSVs, and my plan is to basically let it read every single file that it's possible. Saturation of um, the thought process, and then creativity in the thought process. AI initiate basically gives it the opportunity to talk at me versus me always talking at it, so it can try it's like a little feature to see what it would like to talk about, maybe using a history of conversations. Maybe it pops up with something interesting. The application has to be basically um, open for that to happen in the first place. Short answer, so basically condensing an answer to 2 to 3 sentences. And a debug mode, that's just developer stuff. A lot of it is in development, but in the end I'm using the Olama server, which you can see I'm using it here also in the last question that I asked it. But this is from the terminal's perspective. I'm using it in my own GUI from Python, making it in Qt 6, I believe, PySide 6. So that's just all the technicals, right? In the end, all I'm doing is asking for a specific model, passing a reference or a Facelama Qt. What's the error over here? What error? Something erroring? No, that's fine. Okay, so that's the setup for the GUI reasoning. I'm still developing the reasoning. I was kind of gonna do its own reasoning, so I was gonna loop back a response or a thought multiple times to see if I can actually replicate a type of reasoning through Python and the software side of things versus the model side of things. Give me a second, my cat and my coffee. All right, I'm gonna let my coffee brew a little bit longer. So I was basically gonna try to replicate this reasoning process through code. Still on that, but I haven't really done it. But at this point, if the model can reason on its own, why even bother? We'll see. I might still do it just for the sake of science. Though, here's a case where I'm just communicating with a JSON request, a post request to the server that we see over here in the bottom side, Olama server. And essentially, the instead of using it from the terminal, which is still comfortable, I still like this, but it doesn't have enough ability for me to interfere and give it extra functions. So I'm basically building this GUI on top of this Olama server to provide it with extra features that will basically, potentially even futuristically, giving the model instructions on how to actually take control of this application. Um, Granted, it should only have control for this application, and we'll see how that works out in the end. However, that's all I'm doing really, is I'm just communicating with the server, requesting, let's say the AI query here. So far I've been using Mistral. I'm going to start diving into using Deepseek, maybe playing around with different models, see how they work out. But I have essentially been using Mistral this whole time. So let's say I pose it the same question. In fact, let me take a look at some of the comparisons we can do between DeepSeek and Mistral. It's going to be a complete difference because Mistral is older. It's probably akin to the GPT 3 point something era. GPT-4 is one of the latest stable publicly facing ones, plus 4 something. There's some extra version pieces there. Now with the O1, which in a way, like this was kind of the whole weird thing about O1, the AI wall, right? So there's a case where you can only train an AI so well based on the physical limitation. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, wait. This was end of last year is where this subject came up. So they would hit a wall where hardware is not capable of keeping up with the software. That's an interesting observation because in one way or another, you're really looking at the efficiency of the current algorithms trying to be expanded on more hardware. If you know Linux and if you know Windows, this is the perfect example on the scaled AI factor. Right now, Linux can basically run on any computer in the past, historically. Any current version of Linux can run on any computer in the past. Of course, well, I wouldn't say any version because there's a lot of fancy looking Linuxes out there to try to compete with Windows, but you will find a version for Linux that will run on a 2000 PC even before. The GUI might struggle before, but you get the gist. Linux is algorithmically optimized. Even the file system is different from your Windows systems. NTFS versus EXT. So the easiest way to explain this difference is, in a way, proprietary software versus open source software. When you have 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 people looking at open source code, you have a lot of hands in there. And because everything is regulated through releases, double checks, community updates, any change is monitored. So one individual person cannot poison uh, what is it? What are those big soup bowls where everyone just makes a big soup bowl by putting a bunch of stuff in? There's a name for it. Everyone's making a giant soup and everyone's putting stuff in, but everyone's also checking on what each person is putting in. So open source basically functions on that sort of structure where, yeah, someone can maybe taint the pool for a bit, but luckily code, you can notice that with the community and then revoke that update. But the case is that a lot of brains are now accessing this one feature, this one product, this one program, and progress with many minds, especially in the world of the digital side, is far, far stronger than a proprietary set of developers, like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 that are locked in and there's no one else that can look at that code. This is kind of where we are with the AI world. Again, open source or open AI, it used to be open source, hence the open. So it was kind of weird for me to see that it became a company. I almost feel like that was its downfall. We hit this wall in 2025. AI hits a wall. What does this mean for the tech industry? The wall was that, again, hardware was not strong enough to compensate for the software, but the software is algorithms, mathematics, and formulation that is coded by people. Now, people are people, and we don't necessarily think of the most optimal, effective, efficient formula in the beginning. It's a good start, but as Deepseek has shown us, this new version, let me see if there's a chart here. There was a case where we went from 4 present day case scenario, bad predictions. So, in a way, the general sense of perfect growth, meaning that we can overcome hardware limitations, because this is not hardware. We can't forever increase hardware and power plants and nuclear energy just to keep feeding more and more into these AIs that are old in algorithms. So as the time goes up, and there's always a case for this, agricultural, industrial, internet, we all thought it was going to go in this exponential way, but it turned out to kind of plateau. However, AI now has a truly exponential curve to it. The case here for the red line is a slowdown based on the present day, what was, I don't know, probably December of 2024, where we started realizing that the graphics cards we had were powerful, but not powerful enough to keep exponentially growing. They hit a physics limitation, a form of limitation that is the reality that we live in, the limitation that prevents tires from being perfect and always efficient and durable, because when the ground friction affects the tire, it eats up that particular rubber. When you throw an object in the air, there is air resistance. There are a lot of physics limitations in the reality we live in. So this was the case for chips and the amount of chips that we can basically put on I think with semiconductors we can put on a chip. We made them small. We made them super small. Even Intel couldn't catch up for a long time. We made them super small. I don't even think they caught up, honestly. I think they're still using the old um, conductor size, superconductors or whatever they call them. I just said the word, but I forgot. Anyway, the actual chips now are at a, I guess, physical limitation. Again, until we go down further to maybe quantum, and then we can fit even more into a chip based on the smaller set of physical particles in the quantum realm, which, ha, not yet. I think we need AI first for that one. We start to realize that, oh no, oh one. Let me see. So we have GPT-3, GPT-4, and O1. Arithmetic, few shot, GPT-3. Language model size and prediction. I remember seeing this chart. I should have saved it or something. This chart that showed that there was a big jump from 3.5 to 4, or 2 to 3. 2 to 3 or 3.5. I had a discussion with someone that I can basically use 3 and 3.5 on a regular basis. Although limited, because now Deepseek came in and I've been using this, and I'm like, wait a second, I thought I could use those. So there was a big movement basically if GPT-3 or 2.5 was over here. Or 2? 2. If GPT-2 was over here, or even down here, GPT-3 was like up here. And GPT-4 was probably around up here. So the growth between 3 to 4 was not as big as from 2 to 3. That was kind of the graph that I was looking at. And now as we go, the O1 model seems to be head to head with, did I even post that? No, I didn't post that. I need to post that. I'm going to post this real quick. I have this image of the actual comparisons of benchmarks um, that they've done on all of the major well, they did it on the O1 and all the comparable O1 type GPUs. Just have to find it. In fact, let me just. When I talk, I can't think. Hold on a second. All right. Since should have posted this yesterday when I found it. Take a second. This is my Twitter, by the way, X. TWL Christoph. I used to be a journalist for tech. You went to Taiwan for conferences and essentially analyzed hardware and reported on beneficial factors, benchmarks, and so forth. Anyway, here's the chart I wanted to show. This is insane. Now, again, keep in mind, you're looking at OpenAI right here. In fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start marking some stuff down. You're looking at OpenAI in gray and DeepSeek R1 in this slashed diagonal blue. The other ones, oh, buddy. The other ones are essentially different versions, and there's the O1 mini of the top two, right? So DeepSeek V3 was the case where I remember hearing that it actually distillation process is you train an AI based on another model. That model becomes kind of like the sensei of DeepSeek. So it was trained so hard on the open AI model that it thought it was ChatGPT. Uh, but that was the older version 3, DeepSeek V3. R1, the release, I guess, version, release candidate here, has a lot more algorithmic improvements and probably has been trained by every single um, model. I mean, we have Llama models, we have OpenAI models, we probably have Oracle and Cisco models, and all those others that we don't naturally see in the data sets of the public consumption. We only see ChatGPT as a public side. I'm not sure they can train on Grok's modeling. Don't go in there. There's no reason for you to be there. My cat's trying to get in a drawer. If it fits, it sits. So the benchmark is very, very close. I mean, for the value that it took to train DeepSeek R1, which is 1% of the cost of OpenAI. So currently we've got 500 billion coming in, and this is now. I want to say we've had already 300 billion in the past. Let's call it 2 billion in the past being directed. DeepSeek DeepSeek has only allegedly, again, this is things that we probably have to check because it is a Chinese-based company, hedge fund, has spent 10 million. So, being that it's a Chinese-based model, personally, I'm not using this on an online basis. I'm using it locally on my computer where it's not going to talk to the Chinese. This is my personal preference. I mean, I wouldn't even do that with OpenAI. I'm not really doing it with any AI. I'm just basically developing in my local computer. That's kind of like the main factor here. If these models are available for anyone to use, why even pay money for them? Sure, you may pay for the features that the models may provide, like OpenAI has these um, operators now. But basically, an operator is just an AI model hooked up to a browser. And it's just a combination of two pieces of software communicating through probably Python or some other language. So you're technically buying the factor of use rather than the model itself. And that's what I'm essentially trying to achieve myself, is to create some sort of AI container here where it has functions not only from the user side, but I can always also program certain features for the AI itself to use. So like it can say, um, look up website browser, and I will teach it to say, hey, if you want to go into the internet, start with the keyword browser, colon, and then go to the URL after, and then it'll return you that website in text form. So that interaction between software, programming, and the model is essentially where we start to really focus on where the commoditization of the AI is and where the actual functionality of the software that uses AI is, whether it's custom software. Microsoft has a Copilot, Google has Gemini, OpenAI has operators. They all have something involved. And now we're seeing AI pop up in messengers. Even my PDF reader on my phone is like, hey, have an AI summarize your PDF. I'm like, no, don't touch my PDFs, please. It's really weird. So we're kind of being forced all of these AI features into existing software. Just like email is a base system in a lot of work software. You've got Outlook, right? It's a whole platform made for email, but it connects to Excel, it connects to Word, and it connects to PowerPoint. So, and Teams and et cetera, right? So Outlook is the kind of housing for the email system that communicates with other software to actually be very functional. Just as the browser will be functional for the model, so that your model can basically look on the internet for you and do a bunch of research for you in a matter of seconds. So the commodity here is email. It's a phone number. It's messenger apps. It wasn't until recently messenger apps weren't even profitable until what was it? God, what was that stupid Snapchat? Yeah, that one. That stupid messenger that everyone basically uses because you can hide what you say and essentially be a fake person and do some nasty things on there. So Snapchat didn't profit until I think it was late 2021, 22, because they started adding in a kind of OnlyFans type system where people can sell their content basically um, to others. Um, Basically participate. I mean, I guess like an X of today. You can subscribe to people. You can basically pay for features or for whatever people provide on Snapchat. At this point, you know what they provide on Snapchat. You've probably done that for free in the past. Now you just have to pay somebody to give them to you. I'm not even going to mention what they are. However, people can be very basic. We're just instinctively just basic. So these messengers didn't really have a profit until recently because well, we've had messengers all the way since the phone, since text messaging, since AOL Instant Messenger. Even then, AOL Instant Messenger was an attachment to AOL Online, the main product. You see what I'm getting at? So Messenger is commoditized. Emails are commoditized. Now, unless you put some sort of extreme ad on it, like Gmail lately has been putting a lot of ads. Um, I mean, I'm just looking at it all over the place. I'm like, when did Gmail become an ad space? But that didn't want to profit from it. So why not? I guess you're being given the service. So guess that makes sense. You're not paying for a Gmail. So these commodities were essentially profitless, just like AI itself is today. The only profits being made are from graphics cards and anyone that can attach AI onto another software. But AI by itself, I'm sorry, it's not very profitable. And you can look it up that it's more of a like a sidekick to your main pilot program. It's not the pilot, it's the co-pilot. And Microsoft puts that in a very straightforward way by naming it co-pilot. Um, but I just really want to focus on the fact that we've been throwing a lot of money for the gray bar. And if it's true, again, we don't know for sure, but being an open source project, we can confirm at least the functionality of the AI is comparable. These are benchmarks. The AIME, art of problem solving. So this is basically critical thinking, CT. This is coding, actually creating code, which is fantastic. I mean, I've never had an AI model that I can just copy and paste. I may have to like go through and extract certain pieces that I can use, but I've never had a model that I can just copy and paste. This is the first time I've ever had that experience. Uh, GPQA, I'm not sure what that is. Let me see. GPQA, graduate level Google proof benchmark. So it looks like it's more of a data, multiple choice questions written by domain experts in biology, physics, chemistry. So this is your uh, general education plus science, probably more like science. It's a weird C&E, but you get the idea. Then you got a mathematical problem solving, MMLU, massive multitask language understanding, new benchmark designed to measure knowledge acquired during pre-training. So it's kind of like a measure of the pre-training for. See how well it learns? Maybe it's a case for that. I think it's like a learning factor here. Just massive multi-part test, multiple choice questions, branches, various branches that span subjects in humanities, social. Okay, so no, massive MMLV. Data sets at Hugging Face. I'm getting multiple things here. Language understanding. Oh, this is basically language, culture, humanities. Okay, so call it language, but it's not just language. I haven't even tested it on different languages, but language, humanities, culture, everything. Like that's kind of like the wait, no. The this one. This one is math. I'm gonna remove that because we already know what a math is. Math 500, maybe not, but and SWE, that's pretty low in a general sense, but hey, that's where improvements happen. So the SWE dataset tests systems' ability to solve GitHub issues automatically. Ooh, that's actually nice because you can have a whole automated um, Stack Overflow or GitHub AI that actually helps. But head on head, man, it's just right there. And again, it's really a case of like the algo. Algo versus hardware. This is what's happening here. This is the big difference between the two. OpenAI is spending on brute forcing information into a model, which is traditionally how we've always done this. And this is traditionally how we teach our kids. We keep repeating something until it eventually settles in, which is a bit of a limitation. Some kids are, you give them rewards, you give them candy. Maybe they'll be a little bit more receptive. So it's the same idea is that we have a reward system on hardware where the AI will essentially have points for good answers and gets points removed for bad answers. And the hardware speeds up this for bad answers. And the hardware speeds up this constant bombardment of questions and processing. Brute force is what it's really like. It's like basically trying to find like another case for the use of trying to find like another case for the use of brute force. Brute force is in cybersecurity where you have an individual that tries to find your password by just guessing every single word in the dictionary. That's brute force, right? There's no logic to it. Rather, it's physical. It's you attempting to do something by constantly feeding it data. So you're constantly feeding the password input data to essentially try and guess the password. You're going to take a long time to find a password. It's very complicated. But of course, you have typical passwords like God, sex, 123, all those kind of number values. Now, the algo set of things is like creating a rainbow tree. This is again in cybersecurity. And it has the ability, well, not even. I think a rainbow tree still kind of works as a brute force. It's almost like capturing information from the AI, tweaking that information and sending it back. It's like the reasoning factor of it. It's being able to use an algorithm or the way a person learns, or in this case, or the way the AI learns, but an algorithm is a formula, a recipe, if you will. And it differs. The algo is stronger here. The recipe is better because if, again, allegedly, they really just did spend just 10 million versus the 200 billion and the 500 billion that we're about to spend on our open AI systems, well, we're seeing some interesting swaps in efficiency. And algorithms are always more efficient. Take PNGs versus um what is it? One momento. PNGs versus SVGs. I wanted to just double check my stream, make sure everything's still working out. Oh, wrong one. Why are you signed on that one? working, everything's visible, I'm not sharing the wrong screen. There's my little dude over here flopping around. Are you fucking kidding me? Every single time. Why do you do this? Why is this one browser can't load my stream? Yeah, I'm flopping around. My face ain't coming up though. Well, okay, because I'm not facing the camera. Fine. Okay, so it's working fine. So the difference between PNG and SVG. There's a huge difference in the factor of efficiency. SVG versus PNG. In fact, I can get the AI to explain it to you, but in a way that we're gonna see, I like to always go into images for visual. SVG. There we go. So an image is basically pixels. A PNG in one case is a type of image, and we can replicate an image with pixelation. Okay, I'm not going to wait for that to load and take forever. So if we take this little example here, any image is going to have a pixel with some RGB color, and swapping it in combination with the pixels around it may make it look like a bird, a basketball, something. Now, in the sense of a vector, these are equations. These are basically x and y equations in a form, easy to see when we think about x and y type of coordinates. But to have a straight line represented by the formula y equals to whatever the value here is, let's call it 5, it'll create and draw a straight line on the 5 axis. Very more efficient than having RGB basically draw pixel by pixel by pixel by pixel by pixel, and depending on how long that line is, this RGB, this PNG or JPEG or classical pixel-based images will get bigger and bigger as long as this line keeps growing and getting longer. This is the case for making very high quality images, very detailed images, high resolution images. However, if we're drawing a line using SVG, this never changes size. This doesn't change in the way that the size increases because it's a formula that we just follow with a simple algorithm. So this is the difference between brute force, a bunch of pixels to represent a million-mile line, versus a simple formula that no matter where on this line you are, it continuously does that. It follows the formula. And it's much easier, smaller, and more efficient to think about, or for a computer to think about and generate when it's essentially just a formula versus a full out image or pixels. Because again, as we add more and more pixels, we end up making the file larger. So that's the factor here that we're thinking about. In the way algorithms, SVG, versus brute forcing, or just adding extra pixels over and over and over, just like we keep adding extra graphics cards over and over and over. If we optimize the algorithm, we don't need those extra pixels, man. That's it. That's as simple as mathematics goes. I try to stress this so much to people. Mathematics is the way to go. Efficient math. I've been a computer science major. I didn't go through the full. I think I went through like 80% until a test dropped me out because I couldn't do it 2 or 3 times. And then it turns out 2 years later, they dropped the test because it was stupid. So great. Gateway tests. Regardless, I learned very important things. And the most important thing is because we're so confident about our hardware, we as developers have lost respect for math. We've lost respect for efficiency, for algorithmic dominance, for the ability to take hundreds of lines of code and replace it with a couple repeating algorithmically sound forms. So we end up just increasing hardware without thinking about how can we optimize software. which is weird because we have so many computer science graduates. It almost feels like that should be the focus. And here's another case. Okay, vector versus raster. Raster is your PNG, vector is the SVG. This is what the circle looks like on a pixelated image. This is the one-time size. You zoom in, you make it bigger, you start noticing the pixels. But because a vector is just a formula, it doesn't matter if it's small or big, it's going to be smooth either way. It fills in the gaps as it gets larger. No extra memory, right? Left side, brute force, a bunch of graphics cards. And when we zoom in, it's still not as efficient. So we need more graphics cards to make this circle smoother because our algorithm sucks. In this case, algorithm is perfect, optimized, efficient, and there's no imperfections. That's it. That's the big difference. Algorithms work. Math is the best. So that's where we're basically running that wall into. We're running into a wall where hardware, our brute forcing method of training our GPT systems, models, is running into a physical limitation of the number of processing power we have in the graphics card. So, of course, we're going to put in 500 billion more dollars to increase the data centers, to put a freaking nuclear power plant inside of the data centers. We're going to do so much to brute force this teaching process. When we just realized, and this is the turning point that just happened a few days ago, that algorithms, efficient, optimized, mathematically sound algorithms, can basically cost 1% in both money, in energy, and in effort. Granted, you have a smart individual to create the algorithm for you. You don't need 1,000 different people managing graphic card server racks. You just need one really smart math dude. They probably got that guy. So I'll just end with holy crap. I'm going to play with this so much. I've never again had the ability to copy and paste code literally from an AI's response, and it works perfectly. I mean, other than just this little weird issue that I got with the get. I don't know what it was thinking. Maybe again, it just wanted to put like a little underscore, but I forgot. At this point, it's crazy that it got so far with just one. I mean, we're human, man. We make typos all the time. So maybe it was a typo. I don't know. I don't care at this point because I noticed it and I fixed it and it worked instantly. It took me 5 seconds to see, oh, that's weird. Yeah. The code editor gives you a highlight. It's like, hey, that's not supposed to be there. Remove it and good to go. Never had that happen once. Either in the old, maybe a year and a half ago when I tried it, the AI would give me JavaScript code for a Python type application. And even though it gave me JavaScript code, it was kind of like more Java because they have similar syntax, so probably got confused. And then Mistral, the system I was using recently in my current AI, which I'm going to basically be replacing soon, because Mistral is more like the next gen after that. Mistral's pretty good. I get some good information from it. Oh, did I even do the test on it? Hold on. It's finalized here. I forgot to do the test on it. So the code I liked was this one. So let's see what we get. And the response is so much. Uh, Inolama. There. Normally Mistral, you're gonna see it's not that many the context window is very small. Uh, maybe 4 or 5 paragraphs. You can increase this, but the more you increase this, the more power and more processing it takes. But this one just gives you a whole freaking everything without even flinching. It's constant stream of thought. So in Olama, import subprocess. See, okay, I guess I can copy and paste this. Result subprocess check output Olama list, right? Decode UTF-8 strip, split the result in the list of models. Fair enough. I think that'll work fine. Let me see. Let's test it out. But notice the difference though, because if you're a developer, you've seen this right away. You see it right away. You have a try and accept. That's important. You've got extra configurations in the attributes of the parameters of the run function method. That's important too. Like there's some factors here that, in our case here, didn't have. Like it kind of had like a very nice quick means about it. Let me see if it runs. No. Okay, maybe. I just need to print the model array. Hold on. Maybe it didn't give an error. Yeah, okay, so it did work. That's fair. That's why I started using Mistral versus all the other ones. I was able to essentially do this. This was a very simple task, so maybe I should potentially ask it simple tasks. But looking at this one here, I've got all the extra bells. Only that, maybe some of you are concise and want the basic code. It has a little summary at the end for the code, your task that you need to do with. And again, this is not a reasoning model. The reasoning aspect of this is the thinking part. Thinking right here. Okay, I'm trying to figure out a way currently install llama models, need to find equivalent method, start importing subprocess module. So it's thinking about the process to communicate with the server. Next, needs to handle the output from Olama list. Captured. I mean, I think using captured true will capture all output from both streams, and I can split the output based on. I think both of them had this. Let me see. Output check output subprocess check output list command result T code. No, this one didn't have it. So yeah, it was the extra. I mean, let's see. This one looks neater, maybe. Yes, kitty cat. What do you want? Say something. Meow, meow or something. Compared to that's fine. It's a pretty good microphone. 3 weeks. The format's all right. It's nothing big on the. Well, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. See, this is. I mean, I'd have to go in and parse this even further because notice we have some empty spaces. I'd like for each one of these to be its own item in the list. And then even when we go into the details of each line, so it took each line based on a new line. Well, okay, I'm a programmer. I can figure that one out. Just put a space there. Now we get some weirdness to it, but it's closer to what we want. Then I can basically do some filtering out and removing of empty arrays and whatever, but that's the extra bit to it. So, yeah, there is a optimization in the way that Deepseek thinks that basically optimizes the process. Now I don't have those spaces in between, but I got these extra empty spaces that it just decided to basically put in, which I mean, it's just another function on top or method that I can attach to it and to clean that up as well. So that's not a big deal. But just the fact that, okay, I guess I can't, I mean, that's the first time I've done it really with the program here. I've done other programs with, um, other code with, uh, Mistral, and there was always an issue. Either a function didn't exist, or the formatting was wrong, or I had to go in and adjust some stuff. So this was a very big surprise that this actually worked. Let's do like create a, I think it was when I was doing this, create a custom uh PySide 6 container in Python with basic text box and button. Excuse me. I haven't even touched my coffee yet. It's been waiting for me. Okay, so while that's doing the thing, maybe it's still thinking? Yep, it's thinking. Yeah, okay. All right. So we take that, we go to our DeepSeek. Let's check out what it's gonna give us. Notice how long it took for this one. What it took about 4 seconds. That's interesting. So maybe it just took more time just to stream the information and throw it into one. So for a learning case scenario, wait. Oh, oh my God, it's going giving me like a whole like lesson on it. I guess I should have asked to keep it short. That's insane though. Just look at it. It's literally detailing every step. throwing in the code for each step. Like, all right, if I test pip install, I already got that. So PySide, let's see what this particular set of code does. It should basically launch a container. Sys not defined, okay. Import sys. Fair enough. So we have a container straight from the copy and paste of Mistral. So that's not a bad deal. Now, let's see the comparability. Gosh, this case, Python. Here's the complete code. Okay, so it basically like wrote one of those online tutorials in pieces and then says, oh, well, here's the final code. Yeah, so it's actually going sent to API. Interesting. Response post. We're communicating here with the server. What kind of application are you doing, my dude? PySide application. Handle signal. Window, so that's the size of the window. Text box widget type. Create a layout. Text box widget. Label, enter email address. Validate. Okay, so it's kind of like, I guess, one of those sign-ins. It's basically creating a sign-in browser. Create text box. Push button validate. Validate. So validate should be a function that validates the details. Yeah, okay. So it's email validator. That's cute. Okay, so let's see. They just actually put a whole piece of content together. Uh, from PySide. So here's the important part. So here's the complete code. Okay, fine. We got a simple click me here. Oh, cool. What if I do test? Nice. It's actually responding with test. Nice, nice, nice. So if I take that, okay, now we're seeing something. Okay, so it wanted to do an underscore. It's having trouble with maintaining underscores. I'm starting to see that continuously. High side 6. Well, we do uh PyQt. What was it? Hold on. High sides. I think it's a case for pi side 6 capital. Right. Lowercase, not the same thing. Interesting. I mean, it did really overcomplicate the basic set of it. So, okay, one Mistral, Deepseek a little bit overcomplicating the thing. Set read only, interesting. So what else would be wrong here? Qbox, Qt core, oh, this one. Could not resolve Pylan, so hmm. This is interesting. Let's see. No. Very odd. I have to actually do a little bit more experimenting on it. So it's not 100% given. This one was a pretty decent format. Very straightforward, communicating with a subprocess on Windows machine. But this one really basic text box and button. I told it the same exact thing, didn't I? Basic text box and button. Initialize the application. Technically, you would do that in the main. Did it have a main here? Yeah, it has a main here. So Mistral has a main. Interesting. Create text box. Turn text widget. But this one didn't really have a main. It had it all on the hmm. It had it all on the base running factor on the very left. Window create window. Right. I guess in this case it actually used a class. Oh, maybe it'll do better with a class? What is app? I've never seen that one. I've never seen PySide application. Maybe capital? Q application. Is that what you're looking for? Yeah, it should be Q application. In that case, we shouldn't be using this. Hold on. Something's happening. Create button is not defined. Interesting. So, leaving the class aspect of things, Q edit. How are you not defined? Oh, you didn't actually? Okay. So, it didn't add Q edit to the list, so it was a little inefficient. Not sure if it's supposed to be there somewhere else, but let's check it out. Q VBox layout. Send API to function. We don't have that function, do we? Nope, that's just a random thing. So I'm just going to create a function placeholder for that. Create button still not defined. But it is, isn't it? Wait. Create text box. Create window. Hmm. Very interesting. Let's try one more time. The reasoning is very interesting because sometimes I can be looking at more complicated concepts and I will actually learn the uses of things. Okay, so now it's using a class this time. Interesting. Which is the way you probably want to go when you're dealing with GUIs. Classes can help you organize. Unless you, I guess, do functional programming and you just organize it in files. I guess that works too, but not as useful or not as effective. Right. Pressed in the future. We'll add it for handling. Oh, that was a comment. This time, no changes. All right, run it. Must construct queue application before a queue widget. Fair. Simple app. So let's do queue application instead of queue widget or queue window maybe. Maybe it thinks I'm attaching it to an application. All right. Very interesting contrast I'm having now. Queue widgets, but it did this one did a widget. Queue widget, custom container, Qt GUI, Qt core. Oh wait, maybe it was that's not what I'm